The Egyptian desert is home to some incredible wonders, from the majestic pyramids of Giza to the Valley of the Kings. But now it's making headlines for a mysterious new reason. Giant green circles have appeared in the sand dunes, along with the beginnings of a massive river. Together, they form a huge irregular shape that looks like nothing so much as a gigantic aircraft carrier sitting in the desert. It's not entirely clear what it means or why it's there, but there are clues that this strange development might be just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what the Egyptian government is up to. This video is part of an ongoing series about global megaprojects. These are large-scale construction projects that often take years to complete and serve as a window into the ambitions and capabilities of the nations undertaking them. Some megaprojects are built for prestige or to advance a nation's ideological goals. Others are intended to address basic needs or carve out an area's potential. Sometimes they end up doing all of these things at once. Either way, they are integral to how states grow and change over time. In today's episode, we're going to look at how Egypt is flooding the desert. The idea of flooding the desert might sound crazy, but it's been a long-held dream of ancient Egyptians who first attempted to do so more than 2,000 years ago. Back then, the Nile River was revered as a life source, capable of transforming a barren landscape into a place where crops could grow and people could thrive. Many of the country's most famous monuments were constructed thanks to its annual floods, which deposited nutrient-rich silt that allowed plants to flourish. But the river's benefits were limited to the land directly surrounding it. Beyond that, it was a harsh and unforgiving desert. But Egyptians weren't satisfied with what nature had given them. They wanted more. So they began to construct canals that extended from the Nile into the desert, carrying water farther afield. In some cases, these canals were used to water crops. In others, they served a more ambitious purpose. When King Amenhotep III came to power in the 19th dynasty, he decided to build a large garden in the middle of the desert. This oasis would become known as the Garden of Amenhotep to water it. He dug a canal that stretched for over 37 miles from the Nile. He also built a dam across the river to control the flow of water to the garden. It was an incredibly ambitious project, but one that succeeded in creating a lush and inviting space in the heart of the desert. It remained relatively unknown until the 19th century when it was rediscovered by European explorers. Even today, only a few small sections of the canal remain above ground, but researchers hope to learn more about it through continued excavations. While it ultimately failed to make farming in the desert economically viable, it did prove that it could be done, and the desire to bring civilization to the harsh landscape has never truly gone away. Fast forward to today and a similar project is underway. Across the country, satellite images show new canals being dug in a straight line across the desert. Some are covered in lush vegetation, while others resemble wide, flat ribbons cutting across the landscape. They are concentrated around two major cities, Cairo in the north and Aswan in the south. Seen from afar, they appear to form a massive river more than 125 miles long. That's roughly the same distance as the River Thames in England. While these canals are impressive feats of engineering, they aren't the only new infrastructure appearing in Egypt. Roads are being upgraded, railway lines extended, and new military installations constructed. A new naval base has been built on the Red Sea coast near the city of Hurghada, the site of an abandoned U.S. base left behind after the Camp David Accords of 1979. The new facility is thought to be designed primarily for submarines. It's a sign of how important the Red Sea has become for the Egyptian military. In recent years, it has become increasingly busy due to the presence of vessels from other countries, particularly those aligned with Western powers. Despite these developments, it's hard to know exactly what they mean without more information, but fortunately, there are clues that can help us piece together what's happening. One of the best ways to get an idea of what's happening in Egypt is to visit the desert and see the canals for ourselves. Unfortunately, that's easier said than done. The Egyptian government has cracked down on independent journalists in recent years, and there is very little reliable information available about the project. One thing we do know is that the canals are being constructed as part of a larger effort to flood parts of the desert. That much is clear from the scale of the project and the fact that multiple government ministries have been involved in its planning and execution. According to official sources, the goal is to create an agricultural belt around Cairo that will provide food for the city's growing population. The project is expected to cost billions of dollars and take several years to complete. But it's unclear what the timeline is or how long it will take before the full scope of the project is realized. What's even more surprising is that such a large project seems to have been kept secret from most Egyptians. There are no news articles or reports on it, and when asked about it, many locals seemed afraid to talk. After all, the authorities have been known to crack down on those who criticize the government or its projects, so it's understandable that many people are reluctant to speak out. However, some brave individuals have come forward with information. According to one report, the canals are being dug by hand by thousands of workers who are paid very little. The work is dangerous and difficult, but someone has to do it. The workers say they don't know who is in charge of the project or what the plan is for the canals once they refinished, but they believe it is a government project because they have seen officials visiting the site from time to time. Another report suggests that the canals are part of a secret plan to redirect water from the Nile River to the Red Sea. This would allow Egypt to generate electricity from the difference in elevation between the two bodies of water. While this is speculation, it's possible that the project could eventually be expanded to include hydroelectric power generation. Whatever the case, there is clearly a lot going on in the Egyptian desert that the public doesn't know about. It's hard to say what the full scope of the project is or what it's ultimately intended to achieve. But the scale of the undertaking is clear from the satellite images alone. The new river cutting through the desert is a testament to human ingenuity and determination, but it also raises questions about why such a risky and expensive project was undertaken in the first place. After all, the desert is a harsh environment and there's no guarantee that it will cooperate. Additionally, flooding the desert could have unintended consequences. For example, it could cause the area to become a breeding ground for disease or pests. It could also disrupt fragile ecosystems or displace local wildlife. Despite these risks, however, it seems like the project is moving forward with little opposition. The government has made it clear that it is committed to seeing it through to completion, and there are a number of reasons why. For one, flooding the desert could help alleviate some of Egypt's water shortages. The country is already facing water stress due to population growth and increased demand for water resources. By tapping into the underground water table, Egypt could potentially ease these pressures. Additionally, flooding the desert could create new agricultural land, which would help feed the country's growing population. Finally, it could potentially generate new sources of income for the country through tourism or other means. Despite the potential benefits, however, it's important to remember that flooding the desert is a risky proposition. There are a number of potential downsides that need to be considered. For example, it could cause environmental damage or disrupt fragile ecosystems. It could also displace local wildlife or create breeding grounds for disease and pests. Additionally, there is no guarantee that the project will be successful. After all, the desert is a harsh environment and there is always the risk that something could go wrong. Despite these risks, however, it seems like the Egyptian government is determined to proceed with the project. Only time will tell what the outcome will be. If the project is successful, it could help alleviate some of Egypt's water shortages and create new agricultural land. It could also generate new sources of income for the country. On the other hand, if the project fails, it could cause environmental damage and disrupt fragile ecosystems. It could also displace local wildlife and create breeding grounds for disease and pests. Only time will tell what the outcome will be. Thank you for watching.